Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting scheduled for February 7th, 6 p.m.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of Satellite Beach, February 7th, 2018, approximately 6:05. Please join Member Gibson for a moment of silence in the pledge.
And now for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, open up for any citizens' comments. Hearing none, move on to agenda item 4, members' comments. Any members' comments?
I have none.
Hearing none. Executive Director's report?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 6, discuss, make recommendation on the purchase agreement for the CRA property located at 1604, 1612 Highway A1A. John?
Good evening, everyone. The original contract that the CRA was considering for the purchase of the Peg Legs property at 1604 and 1612 Highway A1A has expired, and staff has received a backup contract for the same amount of a similar design and use. However, the buyer is requesting a 120-day pro forma to do a financial analysis on whether or not the project as originally designed is feasible. There seems to be a misunderstanding because the staff has always said 90 days, and the contract says 120 days. I certainly recommend to staff that we hold them to the 90 days and let the developers agreement, and really that's the difference, is they've added the developers agreement into it, is we run them concurrently. The property will remain in the MLS. It'll be listed as pending, so we will be accepting any backup offers that may come in that time. But just so everybody's got all the information right up front, we have a developer's agreement that's about 90% prepared from the last one, and it's for the most part relatively boilerplate, specific to Satellite Beach, of course, that we'll have them start working on that at the same time they're working on their financial analysis. Within 90 days, they will come back to this board to discuss the findings of that analysis as to whether or not they need to make any adjustments or they can move forward with it as originally designed and proposed. This current contract has been duly advertised in accordance with Florida Statute 163.
John, I know you and I met on this, and I was kind of the one that brought up that I thought the development agreement should run concurrent. And here was my reasoning behind it. I don't want them to put out 90 or 120 days, whatever it is, and we can't make an agreement on the developer's agreement. I think they need to know what that development agreement is up front. And if we have to work through it within those 90 days, at least everybody is on the same page. That's all I wanted to do. I don't want them to go out and spend 90 or 120 days, whatever we decide on, and then come back to development agreement, and we're not in the same ballpark. I think they need to know what our thoughts and ideas are on that property. So that's just the reason I met this afternoon, or a little bit ago, with John, and said I'd like to see them both run at the same time. I don't know if that is legally or that's the way it's done.
I don't have a problem with it legally as long as we have a set time frame for that feasibility, for them to perform that feasibility study. And I think the purchase and sale agreement needs to contemplate what that time period for the feasibility study is going to be.
I think what we're looking at is the 90 days. The contract actually specifies a due diligence period, but unfortunately they're specifying 120 days.
That's Section 8.
Yeah, I have always said 90 days to them, and actually, here's our broker, we might ask that question again, to whether or not that 90 days is acceptable to them. I'm not sure where the 120 came from, but it is what's in the contract.
And you think the 90 days, if it's 90 days, then it's running concurrent with that developer's agreement? Or at least the
That's
review
correct.
process?
So if this board were to accept this contract, then I would say tomorrow, we give them that developer's agreement, and let's start that dialogue immediately, really. So within 90 days, they come back and they've got the concept plan, they've done the pro forma, and we've got basically a developer's agreement that is conceptually agreeable to both parties.
And my thing is, whatever that time is, if it's 90 or 120 is fine, but I want the development agreement to run along with it, so we're all working together. We're not getting 90 days down the road, and nobody knows that we're really going to agree on this development agreement. I just want to make sure that we work through it right up front, everybody knows, so we don't slow the process. Okay?
That's fine.
Can we just change the 120 in this to
Right.
90 and make it real
Well,
clean?
the buyer, that's the buyer's conditions, I mean.
What you can do here is you can change the 120 in section 8 to 90, and then we've approved that, and it would have to go back to the buyer then to approve it with the change to 90.
And can they do that simply by lining through it, changing an initial in it?
Yes.
And can we do also with because I can't make a motion, the development agreement run concurrent?
I don't know that you need to put that in the purchase and sale agreement. I don't think you need to put that in the purchase and sale agreement, because really this is governing the purchase of the property. And so I think what your staff is telling you is that the city will run that development agreement process concurrent with what's in here, and the 90 days ties everything together. So I don't think you would specify in here that you're going to run concurrent. Really, you're talking about that feasibility study period. So you wouldn't say, I wouldn't put language in here that it's going to run concurrent, because then you kind of, again, made that contract open-ended, and we want to have it closed-ended for the purchase and sale, so everybody knows what the closing terms are.
Since you mentioned that, can we take a look at the additional terms kind of toward the end of the contract, and just make sure that that language is acceptable? Because we've got in here that, last sentence, the contract is contingent upon the approval by the City of Salt Lake Beach CRA, approving buyer's site plan and developer's agreement within the 120 days, which will now be 90 days. Is that okay?
I have no issue
Your
with
end?
it.
Okay.
Okay. If it's okay with board members, Ms. Jaffe, would you like to speak on this behalf?
Yeah, my name's Mike Jaffe. There was a 90-day due diligence period in the contract, and then there's a Florida statute that we have to abide by for the CRA that was also attached to the statute. So I'm not sure where that timeline for that statute comes in legally in reference to the contract.
Right, but that's the review of the contract. So the 90 days, you're still compliant. You're still compliant.
Okay. So we would need the 90 days due diligence to come up with the concept plan and our own feasibility study to make sure, the numbers are going to work.
Right.
And then we got to work out some parking requirements, public parking for the city.
Well, again, the only reason I say, again, like you heard me say.
And then after the 90 days,
agreement-
I see the development agreement process starting, we could put a cap on time.
No, that's not what I said. What I had said that they run concurrent. Because what I don't want to do is get out to that 90-day period, start the development agreement, and we're so far off. I'd rather it started at the same time, so we work through the development agreement. You know what we expect on that part of the development agreement, and so does,
Yeah, we just want to make sure we have enough time to come up with a concept plan that's going to work and not run out of time trying to get a developer's agreement put together.
Again, I'm just trying to, the concept plan is going to be determined somewhat of the developer's agreement. There's going to be parking in there, there's going to be what things the cities want. So wouldn't you want that beforehand now, so you know when you're doing your due diligence that we don't get to a point where we're hitting a stone wall, or we need to discuss this more?
Well, maybe we need 120 days instead of 90.
Again, I'm not taking, I just want,
Yeah.
I thought it would be better off if it ran concurrent, so that,
I think we could run it concurrently if we had 120 days.
I think if we could just express, like, we gave a list of what we wanted to the proposed
I know where you,
prospective buyer, and so they know what we want, but we want to make sure that if we do a 90-day due diligence, and the
well, let's do a
prospective
90-day
buyer
due
is
diligence.
is unable to get us what we had asked for in the previous contracts with the parking and things like that, then the prospective buyer understands that the purchase price would be a different price, right?
Right. Well, I mean, what if we did a 90-day due diligence and a 30 days for the developers agreement?
That would be,
Let me ask this, Mike, I mean,
Because don't we have to come back and get approval for the concept plan before we even have a developers agreement?
right.
Well, this is how I kind of laid out the developers agreement when I was working on it, is most of it is just about your expectations, the buyer's expectations, city, and vice versa. It was not design specific. You know, about the only thing that was really design specific is the parking component.
Right.
So it seems to me that we could begin those discussions immediately.
Sure.
As far as the expectations of a developers agreement, particularly with these seasoned developers, they're well familiar with developers agreement. And I don't really see that taking them a lot of time to put these concepts together in a developers agreement. And so I just understand why they can't run concurrently in that 90 days.
I mean, you can run negotiations somewhat concurrently, but I think, I mean, I'd have to say that there are some things that we may want that we don't know yet because of what the development may be, where we have construction timing, you know, things like that, that we don't know what that is going to be yet. So until we get that concept plan and stuff like that, we're going to be negotiating a developers agreement that may change drastically after that concept plan has been created.
But the developer does have some of the things we expect at this point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they don't need the developers agreement for that. They understand what we want. And so they'll develop the concept plan and their financial feasibility based on that. And then they'll come back to us and say, you know, yes, we can do what you want, or no, we can't. And we'll say, okay, you know, we still like your project, but we might have to change the price because you can't get, you know what I mean? So those negotiations will occur as soon as they start their planning process. And we just don't, it'd be hard to do a developers agreement at the time that we're doing this because we don't know what that looks like yet. See what I'm saying?
Okay, I'll tell you, again, part of my fear is this thing just dragging
Dragging on,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, I just saw what happened last time, not saying it will this time, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page as we're going forward with this. So that's.
Well,
that's
the
my
group
concern.
that wants to put this property under contract has substantial credibility. It's a group that we purchased 27 acres, the Satellite Shores project. They're well-funded and know what, you know, we all know what we're doing.
I think it's just, we have to decide on what we're doing specifically. And that's what they want to do their planning process for, which I like to see it go faster too, but we want to make sure that, you know, we all get it right.
So have we determined that we're looking at 90 or 120?
We haven't gotten
I
that
would
as a
do-
motion yet, but the floor is open, so I'll bring it back to the board and we can discuss that. Mike, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think if you want to do 90 and then do 30 days for the development agreement after we've had a chance to submit the concept plan, then
I mean, what I would do is go ahead and enter the 90 days with the due diligence and get their understanding that, you know, if we can't get the public parking and things like that, the price of the property change, stuff like that, if we're proving that now, and we have a 90-day period for this contract, due diligence, I would approve that now. And then once we get that back to you, because it might not take 90 days, you know, it might take 60 days to get this done. And we'll bring that back to you when it's done, and then we'll go into a developer's negotiation at that time.
Okay. In the developers negotiation, we're saying 30 days on that?
I think once we figure out what the concept plan is and we all agree on it, and this property, or the prospective buyer has clearly got the financial capacity to do the project, and so we're not nervous about that. Because of that, I think the developers agreement will go pretty quickly.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we're with you. We don't want to do what happened last time, that's for sure.
Now we just want to make sure they know the basics of that developers
yeah.
agreement beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks.
thank you. Public comments still open for this agenda item. Hearing no further, bring it back to the board.
So we're going to be looking at a 90-day contract. We'll amend the language that's in the two places that it's in this document to 90 days from 120.
Yes, I have a motion by Vice Chair Montanaro.
Second?
I have a second by Member Gibson. Just to our attorney, that's all?
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion from board members?
I mean, and there's nothing to, even though we're saying 90 days, if we get down to day 80 and there's substantial progress made and everything, but there's an unforeseen something or other, there's nothing to stop us from extending that past 90 days, right? We can bring this back and say, we understand you need more time because of the following reasons. We can say, we're going to extend this another 30 days. We can make that point, right? I mean, there's nothing to stop us from doing that.
That's correct.
So I like the idea that it's 90 days instead of saying 120 days. This way, at 90 days, at least we will expect to see something. So even if we have to extend, at least we know we're not starting with a blank slate and still waiting for step one to happen. I mean, as long as we can extend it, I don't see a real issue with that.
I just like to see progress on it. That's all. So, any further? One more?
Mark Reimer.
Yes.
Steve Osmer.
Yes.
Mindy Gibson.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Montanaro.
Yes.
Chairman Catino.
Yes. Thank you, staff. Thank you. Okay. Move on to agenda item 7, adoption of minutes, November 15th, special, and January 3rd, regular.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of November 15th special and January 3rd regular meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Member Brimer, second by Member Osmer. Further discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Mindy Gibson. Yes. Vice Chairman Montanaro.
Yes.
Steve Osmer.
Yes.
Mark Reimer. Chairman
Yes.
Catino.
Yes, motion passes. Any further business before the board? Okay, meeting's adjourned, 6:45 for our
Applicants.
applicant.